We're going to do something a little different today. As always, this is the Associated Guest. I am always your host, Alfie Animus, here at the Bear in Mind channel. Today, we're going to do a little bit of a dive. Unfortunately, I'm still running late like always because I'm still me. But we're going to dive into why modern superheroes suck with someone who's I very much enjoy his videos. He's the Fantagonist. He's probably I don't know. I find him very insightful and pretty entertaining. Something that I would be doing if I could edit for shit, to be honest. But we're going to get into this.
A video covering why Dispatch has understood what makes superheroes so popular and enduring better than 99% of what we're getting out of them in the modern day, and how by doing so it unexpectedly reinvigorated interest in the genre again, while most Marvel and DC adaptations have been actively turning potential fans away. One of the main reasons I covered was that Dispatch portrays
Because they're made by people who don't like comic books or superheroes for people who don't like comic books or superheroes. That's the biggest thing. You have to do something that will keep the original fan base, the whole reason you do franchises in the first place, the built-in fan base, keeping them included while also bringing in new people. You're supposed to, and if you want to teach people something, you're supposed to be smart enough to write it well enough to teach them without beating them over the head with it, to where if they want to see the message, they'll see the message. And if they don't, they can just enjoy the content. But everything since Endgame hasn't been enjoyable.
superheroes as crime fighters first and foremost again. And while I got a lot of comments agreeing with me, or discussing the nuances of the point, there were a lot of people claiming that I was straight up wrong, with their arguments against the very idea that superheroes are supposed to fight crime being usually a variation of the following. Most superheroes have more important things to do than deal with regular crime. Dealing with street-level crime is only for street-level heroes like Spider-Man, Daredevil, or Batman. Or watching
No, street-level crime is for anyone who sees it.
superheroes fight crime all the time would be boring. Or committing crime is seen as a byproduct of your socioeconomic class in the modern day.
This is
Having
the dumbest
superheroes
argument.
beat up poor people could be seen as problematic.
As a poor person here, person who's been poor his entire life, we don't care. The only ones that do are the ones who elevate themselves out of the poor class and think they have insight.
And of course, shut the fuck up,
Usually inspired by getting laid.
idiot! You don't know what the fuck you're talking about! Fuck you and your video! Ah! So, I thought this would be a
And these are usually the same people, the last two people he mentioned.
good opportunity to go through these ideas and explain why, even though they're apparently relatively popular opinions, they're just logically wrong. But more important than arguing with any specific person or even a cultural consensus.
Black Bolt sucks, the Inhumans suck. This is just facts. No one likes them. No one does. Nobody.
I am arguing with the parts of these ideas that have bled into
No one liked
actual
Echo either.
superhero comics, movies, and games, and have contributed to plunging the medium out of popularity and turned many potential fans away. So, let's start out with the one I saw the most, while also being the most frustrating to hear, because while the other ones are at least opinions, this one is just factually wrong. That being, Superman and the Avengers have more important things to do than deal with regular crime. Street-level crimes are really only for street-level heroes like Spider-Man, Batman, and Daredevil. And this is wrong, for so many reasons. Firstly, yes, Spidey, Batman, and Daredevil do fight a lot of street crime, specifically in the movies and shows. They're some of the few characters who are most likely to be shown doing so. But they also fight all kinds of other crazy shit. Spider-Man fights a mutated scientist trying to turn the world into reptiles, a living vampire, a mad scientist obsessed with cloning people, alien symbiotes, out-of-control robots, multiversal borderline cannibals, and many other insane, very much non-street-level threats.
Yeah.
Batman fights a mad monster-making scientist, a mutated bat monster, a femme fatale eco-terrorist who can control plants, the immortal leader of an assassin cult, a crazed psychologist obsessed with plunging the world into utter fear, and
Also, I kind of love when they made Poison Ivy a representative of the green. Sexist photocell ZGXWFP. No thank. Nesna is not my bag, baby.
ancient monster from the dark multiverse, a giant zombie, and many even crazier threats.
I
And
appreciate the
these are
engagement,
just
though.
when they're on their own, not even counting the even crazier crap they face alongside other heroes on the Avengers or Justice League. And half of the time you look at Daredevil, he's fighting frickin' ninjas, man.
Yeah.
And though all of
The
these
Hand.
heroes do fight a lot of so-called street-level crime, the majority of those criminals wear costumes while committing their crimes. And just about every hero has a rogues gallery, with the
Hold on. And speaking of dipshit fans, is this actually a thing? Critical Drinker Post. Anyone else disappointed by the lack of human diversity in Avatar? Why there's barely a single non-white actor to be found in this aggressive, militaristic, expansionist colonial faction? I'm sure that's a total coincidence, though. Well put. Well, I'm sure all the Na'vi are seen as all the diversity you need. But then again, you would have thought that in oh gosh, what's the Monkey King video game that was just made, Journey to the West or whatever? Sun Wukong, that's what it was. People said that there wasn't enough diversity in Sun Wukong, where most everybody is either Asian or anthropomorphic creatures.
vast majority
think
of
that's
their
the word.
villains
Where they're
usually more
animal-
interested in committing crime
humanoid
than
animals.
controlling or destroying the world, as we keep seeing in modern movies and stuff. The Flash is one of the most powerful heroes on the entire planet. He is the antithesis of street level, yet the vast majority of his major villains are just regular criminals who happen to wear a costume and have some power or gimmick. Sure, he fights incredibly dangerous threats like Gorilla Grodd or Reverse Flash, but the various Flashes have also fought Captain Cold, Heatwave, Mirror Master, Weather Wizard, Captain Boomerang, Trickster, Abracadabra, Folded Man, Tar Pit, Girder, The Shade, Ragdoll, Thinker, Turtle, Fiddler, and many more criminals of Central and Keystone City. Sure, Superman fights world-ending threats like General Zod, Doomsday, and Brainiac, but he also fights Metallo, Parasite, Silver Banshee, Toyman, Livewire, and Prankster, all of whom have tried to kill Superman or other citizens of Metropolis, robbed banks, or stolen technology for themselves or for whoever is paying for them, or caused damage to public or personal property. Crimes. Thor is one of the biggest examples I kept seeing of a hero who is too busy fighting cosmic and godlike threats to intervene in crimes. And yes, he does fight a lot of that stuff. But I find this example to be a strange one, since one of his most well-known villains is the Wrecking Crew, who are basically just a group of 4 criminals imbued with godlike powers. The X-Men are another example often given, but many of their villains were just criminals who happen to have mutant powers, like Vanisher or Black Tom Cassidy. Fantastic Four, I keep seeing people see, oh, they're more of explorers, and they do explore, and that's awesome, and they find a lot of threats while doing so, but they also fight threats like the Wizard, Pot-Paste Pete, or Mad Thinker. The idea that certain heroes only have certain types of villains is mostly a product of the movies. And one of the reasons
That's because most people only know their main antagonists, like Doctor Doom, Galactus. They don't know any of the street level people. Or Mole Man. The only reason people know Mole Man is because of the Underminer from The Incredibles.
people are starting to grow bored of them. We've basically been watching these characters fight the same reskinned I'm gonna take over or destroy the world villains over and over.
Reskinned. If you know, you know.
Over and a rehash of the same plot again and again. When I say superheroes are supposed to fight crime, I don't mean just guys in ski masks holding up a convenience store. I mean supervillains. There's this idea in modern
like the
pop
Shocker.
culture that supervillain equals
And I've always said, especially with someone with a vast rogues gallery who you don't want to get too into as far as their backstory, it would be great at the beginning, especially of the sequels, to see Spider-Man wrapping up someone, low level like the Shocker or anyone like that. That would also be a good way. Like, okay. You know what? I'm going to save it for how I would save the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or bring it back, rather.
world conqueror or genocidal maniac, but that's completely wrong. It's just the antithesis of a superhero. If a superhero uses their power to dedicate their lives to selflessly protecting others, a supervillain uses their power to selfishly benefit themselves at the expense of others. And oftentimes, this takes the form, like it does in real life, of crime. Stealing shit, killing or hurting people, violently lashing out in public for attention. And because modern superheroes, even in comics, are so focused on creating the biggest, most high-stakes stories ever, we're being denied a lot of the best comic book characters. How in the hell did they make a Flash movie and not use the Rogues? It's because they think a group of villains pulling up a heist is too boring for the Flash to fight. No, he needs to fight some time-traveling evil version of
I do have to say, I'm glad James Gunn changed Captain Boomerang's outfit. It's horrible. It is.
himself. How can they make a Suicide Squad movie and claim there's all these super-powered costume criminals out there, yet in every other movie show us a world where our heroes never deal with public threats like this? It's the same reason. They don't want to take the time to set these kind of characters up. Now, there's another similar comment I kept getting that not every superhero should fight crime. Some, like Doctor Strange, are focused specifically on protecting the realm from magical threats. And to that comment, I say, you're absolutely correct. Not every hero should fight crime. That would be equally boring. However, the majority of them should, at least to some extent. A superhero world is a world where, for whatever reason, various people have powers or special abilities. And when there are so many people with powers, it's inevitable that a great deal of them will use those powers to easily break the law, such as stealing or hurting others for personal gain.
You know you
and
do it.
Since there are so many people like this, it's basically necessary to have so many superheroes to counter this so they don't overrun the world. Because without all these supervillains and supercriminals, why in the hell are there so many superheroes wandering around anyways? And what are they doing with their time? Moving on to the next major criticism I've been seeing, watching superheroes fight crime all the time would be boring as hell. And with this, I absolutely agree. If I go to a Thor movie and have to spend 2 hours watching him deal with a couple bank robbers, I'm gonna be pissed and bored as hell.
But yeah, but the people making people making this argument are stupid, because it's not all the time. It's ever. That's it. Just like I said, opening up a Spider-Man movie or one of your low-level the people who are known for, tying up street criminals and all that. Starting off the movie, them wrapping it up maybe with someone small like Electro, and then going into your main story. Then all of a sudden he's at school or college or work or something, and then there's MJ. But the fact that people say it can only be one way or the other just shows how there's not just two options. There's always a third option. But I just don't get it. But yeah, and that would be a good way to set up your Sinister Six, because most of them were just regular street criminals. Scorpion, I think Shocker was in there, so on and so forth. There's been interchanged members of it, but I mean, hell, you could even do the Rhino holding up a streetcar, but not a giant robot like the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Even if those bank robbers were the Wrecking Crew. And that goes for all the previous heroes I listed. However, in the current MCU, Thor is basically just a super strong guy who gets pissed off sometimes and flies in to beat the crap out of somebody. He's not a superhero. And he's definitely not a hero of Midgard, as he's almost always focused on cosmic or Asgardian threats. But if you show just one scene where he's flying over the city and sees someone shooting up a bank, then flies down to easily deal with it, suddenly that all changes. One scene, and Thor is no longer some selfish buff dude protecting his own people and constantly trying to get revenge. He's a superhero who will take some time out of his busy day to help puny little mortals when he can. God knows Love and Thunder and Dark World had the spare friggin' time to put a scene like that in, as half those plots were just filler anyways. Modern-style superheroes come off as gods from above, too important and busy to come down and trifle within the filth us common mortals live in.
That's mostly DC, mostly.
You show one scene where a superhero stops a purse snatcher or bank robber, costumed or not, and you show
asshole.
that they at least care about the common man. The Raimi Spider-Man movies used to do a very good job of this. We'd get a quick little montage of Spider-Man stopping various crimes that would not interrupt the plot at all. But it would show us that he's a good guy. a hero who cares deeply about people, no matter how small their problems. That's something that's sorely lacking from modern heroes in the wider pop culture. And as I said before, it's one of the reasons people seem to believe Spider-Man should care enough about people to stop criminals, but think it would be asinine for the Avengers to care what the hell's happening on the streets of New York. The Avengers in the movies are a group that pretty much only comes together when there's a world-ending threat they need to deal with. But that's not how they've always been portrayed in the comics.
I mean, for the most part.
If there's a world-ending threat, they'll be there in a second and they will deal with it. But if the Serpent Society is robbing a bank down the street, they're not going to just sit around and let the cops deal with it. They're going to send some members out to stop them and
whoever's
save
close.
people. But because they never fight crime in the movies, the MCU Avengers are not superheroes. And you want to talk about what's boring? Look at the majority of modern superhero media. Movies like The Marvels, Flash, Love and Thunder, and Quantumania are convoluted, unfocused messes. And so many modern comics are just like 20 pages of people talking about nothing, or us following some boring-ass slice-of-life story that would never get greenlit without hijacking a superhero, or just straight-up lectures about some issue that has nothing to do with these characters and I don't give a crap about. These are
Yeah, they don't need to be protesters. I'm not saying they should be counter-protesters. I'm just saying they are what they are for a reason. And putting your own thoughts and making... This is the main reason why I don't like modern protesters, is because they think they're smarter than the average person, when for the most part, they're mentally ill. Let's be honest.
Supposed to be stories about superheroes. Making the heart of the story, fighting crime and protecting the innocent, keeps things focused and on track. Within that framework, you can do just about any story anyways, whether a relationship soap opera or some metaphorical lecture. I don't care. Keeping it focused on heroes and villains will keep it interesting no matter what. Even on the crappiest of writing, if a hero jumps in and punches a guy, it is at the very least exciting. And keeping it focused on heroes dealing with crime keeps things grounded here in the real world. One of the major problems people have with the ever-growing stakes of the Earth, universe, multiverse, omniverse is just about to explode and the heroes need to go stop it, specifically that we've been seeing in the movies, is that it takes the heroes out of the regular world and makes them distant and unrelatable. But if they keep returning from their crazy multiversal space adventures to stopping things that happen in the real world, like someone stealing a car, kidnapping somebody, or robbing a bank, they'll remain with at least 1 foot in our world. That's the magic of superheroes. It's not the powers, it's not the costumes. It's those things existing in our mundane world. And
What a waste. What a waste of Gore the God Butcher and Christian Bale.
that's something the pop culture's conception of superheroes, specifically in the movies, have almost entirely lost. You're supposed to be able to imagine that you could look up and see Captain America or Superman flying by. But in these kind of plots, it's hard to imagine yourself in all of these crazy, nonsensical green-screened areas anyways. And now, here's the one that drives me the most nuts.
And what a waste of John Krasinski. He could stop you with one word from his mouth. Who talks like that? He could stop you with one word. You have to have a mouth to say a word. That's how it should have gone.
To hear, and makes the least sense as to why superheroes specifically should not be fighting crime anymore. Committing crime is seen as being a byproduct of your socioeconomic class in the modern day. Having superheroes beat up poor people could be seen as problematic. This is one of the most common criticisms of superheroes nowadays.
Retarded
so prevalent in
criticisms,
the
let's be
genre that
honest.
even dipshit writers have parodied it in official works from Marvel and DC. Most recently and pathetically in Flash, when Batman says that if he really cared about crime, he would focus his resources on helping the underlying social problems that lead to it, instead of just beating up criminals, out of Batman's own friggin' mouth with a lasso of truth on him, which will drive every fan of Batman nuts.
Exactly.
Because there are countless examples of him doing
Shapeshifter.
exactly that in comics. Whether it's by investing in fixing up the lower income parts of the city everyone's neglected, funding programs that rehabilitate criminals and help them integrate back into society.
Look, and this is another reason I absolutely abhor people who have never seen the comic book or never read the comic books or anything, or the animated series or anything like that. You can tell that they're not actual fans, because all they think of Batman is some rich dude that beats up poor people. Oh shit, I forgot to do that over the weekend. I might do a special playing. Okay, so I'm off Wednesday and Thursday, so I will probably do a longer show on Wednesday morning, and just remind me and I'll make sure to throw it in at the beginning.
or using his Bruce Wayne persona to convince the other elites of Gotham to use their resources to do the same. The people who argue crime is committed by the
Sorry, I've been hitting the head a lot, and there's other reasons, but I'm very addle-brained. I apologize. Just keep reminding me, and I promise I'll get to it.
poor, so Batman and Flash shouldn't deal with it. Those are people who I'm going to assume have never been truly poor. Because if they had, they'd know that most crime is also committed against the poor. To people saying this, you know what neighborhood?
Yeah, it's poor people usually hurting poor people, or rich people hurting poor people. I've never understood this argument that Batman only hurts poor people. This is ridiculous, and you can always tell that this person is not an actual serious person or a comic book fan.
Batman isn't patrolling yours, because it's just fine and safe. The places Batman patrols are the seediest, most dangerous, and crime-infested areas in Gotham. And I guarantee Batman doesn't give a shit how poor or rich the people committing crimes there are, or how poor or rich the victims of those crimes are. He'll save them either friggin' way. Because if some guy's got a gun at me and my family, and Batman jumps in and punches him, and I'm not going to be like, whoa, Batman, we don't know what brought him to that. For all we know, this dude has had a hard life, and it's not his fault he shoved a gun in my mouth. Come on, man. And
this is a stupid argument. Are some criminals people who are just need help? Yes, and we should definitely reform the prison system, and definitely reform the mental health system. Like, I'm not saying like what are they called, insane asylums or whatever. These should not be where people just go to be lost, or going in with an associate's in weed and coming out with a bachelor's in cocaine or whatever, as they are now. They should be somewhere that people go to get actually rehabilitated or educated to try to be better when they get out. But we're so focused on the punishment part, which for some crimes, of course, PDF files, rapists, and people who love to unalive other people. I mean, there's redemption for everybody, and I believe in that. But these are the main three that definitely need punishment, and then maybe rehabilitation later. Otherwise, you're just going to make them worse, and given today's prison structure, they're going to be let out, especially if they're in blue states.
The next critique I have of this nonsense is that, yeah, plenty of crimes are committed by the poor and desperate. And if you want to read a story exploring,
I want to show you the most.
And if you want to read fault, he shoved a gun in my mouth. Come on, man. And the next critique I have of this nonsense is that, yeah, plenty of crimes are committed.
Right there. I don't know why that was so funny to me. It's like, my little bat escapes me. Anyway, sorry.
I'm a child. Poor and desperate. And if you want to read a story exploring how these more nuanced problems could be dealt with within the...
Well, no, like, I get that point, but at the same time, you have to be, like, people should be punished for wrongdoings, but we're going about it all wrong. We're only focusing on the punishment, but eventually, yes, there should be some kind of rehabilitation and road to redemption. They already offer something like that, but it's only to get out earlier. It's never to, and that's the bad thing with prison gangs and all that. Yeah, like Randy Marsh from the COVID episode of South Park, Batman. Fucking a bat.
These fantastical
That's why
worlds.
They call him Batman.
Go for it.
All.
Sounds interesting. But I don't think anyone is saying that they want to watch Batman jump down and beat the shit out of a widowed mother who works 2 jobs and still can't afford rent as she steals a friggin' banana to stop her 5-year-old from starving to death. We're talking about murder.
And again, that is not what all criminals are doing. I mean, come the fuck on. Most people don't go to the food section when they steal from stores. Most of them do it for little things that they just want or need. Like, it's usually hair, makeup, and electronics. That's the main thing that's usually stolen. Not food. This isn't Aladdin, where Aladdin was stealing something and some kids were stealing bread, or he was stealing bread and he gave it to these kids who were also wanting to, eat. Bruh, I hate the modern episodes of South Park. I mean, was this the best season? No. And a lot of people don't like Integrity Farms. I like some of it, But everyone has to admit, since they've been doing where there's continuity instead of just every episode resets, it has gotten a bit weaker because they have to, especially when Charlie Kirk died. I'm sure they had more of Cartman in this season, but then Charlie Kirk died, and I'm sure Paramount stepped in, which is why they went so hard on Trump. I'm sure they were wanting another lawsuit, or at least for it to appear they wanted another lawsuit as a big middle finger to Paramount, especially after they got their 1.5 billion dollar deal through Paramount, the South Park guys.
Murderers, rapists, muggers, psychos, junkies, serial killers, gangsters. Real crimes, man. But we're also talking about fake crimes. Sure, in real life, there are plenty of bank robbers. Some who endanger the innocent by involving guns and taking hostages. But in a superhero world, they're often...
I mean, I agree with that for the most part, but then again, I love Randy episodes. I love Butters episodes. But I do admit, when the four boys or the whole group of kids is just being kids in this outlandish world that they've created themselves, like the video games, the two of the three newer South Park games, it's the best part of the whole fucking thing. This is just, I mean, it's just 100% true.
Using an ice gun or ripping the bank vault off of its hinges with their super strength. You don't need to do anything as dull and literal as real life does. Yeah. If writers do these things right, we never even need to have a conversation about how to deal with crime in the real world. Captain Boomerang and Prankster aren't really reflective of the real world. Because here's the most important thing I absolutely hate about this argument I keep hearing. This shit isn't real, man. Yes, superheroes can represent the real world quite often. Civil War was a conversation on gun control. Winter Soldier was about worries about the rising security state. Superman was very blatantly about contemporary overseas conflicts. And if you're interested...
And the best part about those two Captain America movies, he pointed out, you can enjoy the movie without even noticing the message in those movies. And that's where people get it fucked up, is that they put the message before people's enjoyment of the fucking movie. If you want to make some indie flick or some low budget or mid budget whatever that isn't a franchise to beat people over the head with some kind of message, be my fucking guest. That's why most of your things in consideration for all these awards that are handed out, especially the movie of the year or the Hollywood jacking itself off award, those go to movies that nobody fucking watches anymore. It's not like back in the day. I mean, come on. Even if they're good movies, nobody wants to be lectured. No one wants to pay money to get lectured. They'll watch it on streaming, sure, maybe. But the fan enjoyment has to be first and foremost. I don't want to be pandered to. Exactly, unless you find some kind of interesting way to put it, like basically anything in the 90s. The 90s had all kinds of messaging in it, especially stuff made for kids. But it was in there for people who could enjoy the content and also maybe learn something. That's how you're supposed to do things. If you beat people over the head, they're going to naturally lean against you because no one wants to be pandered to. It's like I used to have a friend who I used to hang out with, but I hated like getting drunk with him because he would always talk about just world events. And he would always be combative every single time. Nobody wants to hang out with anyone like that. I mean, I do because I'm a lunatic and I love arguing with people. But nobody else wants to hang out with that. That's why people stopped hanging out with me too, because I wouldn't care if he showed up. And we would normally just end up sitting by ourselves and me pissing him off because I know exactly what he believes in. And I can usually argue for or against just about anything that I know anything about. And nobody... Exactly. And yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to pay for anything that clearly hates them. Which is what, and this is the main big thing. Like the Witcher, DC, Marvel, past a certain point, is made by people who hate them. And let's be honest, it's mostly upper to upper middle class, overprivileged ass, liberal white women. This is just a fact.
In these issues, you can watch these movies and think about them. But if you're not, you can completely ignore them or not even notice and just enjoy the fantastical action movie. That's the beauty of this genre. It can be so many different things to so many different people. People always call them escapism, and some of them are, but they're a unique blend of escapism and metaphor. When people come in and limit them due to some real-world opinions they have, it makes the whole thing so damn boring.
It really does.
Because these kinds of people are so literal, they're not creative enough to structure their opinions in the form of a superhero story, which is what we're all here for. But lastly, this is the kind of thinking that has been mixing morality up so
Well, and it's just like what he just said. Most of this is escapism, or interesting, or just getting lost in something fantastical. And this should be something that brings us all together. It used to be. And that's what I don't understand. A lot of people, like liberals and conservatives, or at least the ones who were more interesting, could watch this and have some kind of commonality, something in common, something that brought us together. And then that previous group that I said before didn't like that. So they found a way to scare away the fan base, but what they didn't realize was them in real life drove more people to the right or the center or anything to the right of what they deemed to be Nazis. Get that Wicked Witch. No, I agree. She-Hulk was terrible.
That they've just become
Ironheart
almost
was worse,
unwatchable
but
sometimes. Ironheart being the best example.
See.
All across the series, Riri commits crime after crime, specifically justifying being poor as her excuse for doing so. Any superhero fan...
And I'm sorry. I know she's like 23. The bitch looks 40. I don't know what it is about her face. It just, it screams to me. She did something to the effect of that first Jordan Peele movie where she put her old ass into the body of a very young person. I have no positive feelings about this show. It literally screams as being a supervillain origin story, but she's supposed to be the good guy.
And watching this expected her to learn her lesson or face justice, but she doesn't.
There's no accountability
in with her ruining multiple lives around her and never coming to terms with the inner trauma causing her to live such a selfish, careless life. And then she makes a deal with the literal devil at the end because she has no concept of good and evil. And this is not portrayed as an interesting exploration of what happens when someone has no moral compass or clarity. It's portrayed as just nothing specific, just some stuff that happened. The writers just thought it would be an interesting story, so that's what the story was. Superheroes are the story of good versus evil at their core. When you start justifying evil actions, you also start questioning good actions. As we see in...
Hold on, real quick. This retard Glenn Toons says, a message from us in Europe. Dear Trump Americans, now we Europeans have to disclose our social media activity for the last 5 years if we want to travel to the U.S. Anyone who criticizes Trump can be denied entry. Let's say it clear. We never want to hear anything about freedom of speech and democracy from you again. This coming from the people who has so many people arrested for talking shit about politicians in their own countries. That's most of the EU and Britain. Let's be honest. You can Google it. I hate saying that, but you can. There's several hundred people a year arrested for talking shit. Basically stuff that we take for granted in America. And it depends on what kind of shit you're talking about, Trump. A lot of it has to do with calling him a Nazi and saying, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Talking about murdering the motherfucker. That's not free speech. You don't know what free speech is. You don't know what words fucking mean. Educate yourself and then come back to us. Is Ironheart supposed to be this female Iron Man? Kind of. Funny thing is, in the comics, she steals his stuff. She doesn't make it herself. And she may or may not enhance it for some reason, and for some reason she never wears a face mask. Sometimes she does.
Ironheart, as Riri keeps tearing down Tony Stark multiple times in weird little passive-aggressive comments and speeches that heavily imply he's not a hero, despite having saved the world. The Marvels had an interesting question about good and evil inside of it, through Carol's actions destroying the Supreme Intelligence and leading the Kree to lash out in desperation as their planet suffered for it. What was right, what was wrong here? But because there's no clear morality in this story, we just watch random shit happen for a while and then Carol reignites the Kree sun. No moral, no idea, no lesson whatsoever. You just wasted your time, man. This isn't something the early...
And that's one of the things I love about South Park. South Park, in a lot of their episodes, especially during the South Park Renaissance, which is like from seasons 6 to maybe 12 or 14, there's always a message, and it's usually a good one.
The MCU had. There were clear heroes and villains representing the good and evil in humanity, putting them against each other. And this is part of why it became so popular, because that's what superheroes are. This vague, unspecified crap where you can never talk about anything and never show anyone stating any strong opinion about anything is just the boringest crap ever. This topsy-turvy crime isn't evil and stopping crime isn't good mentality is killing the genre. Yes, there's nuance in everything. And you can explore that by showing supervillains with noble traits who are really just victims of circumstances making bad choices, and superheroes with toxic traits who are secretly narcissistic.
Which Invincible does this pretty well, probably too much a little bit. But it's definitely understandable. Some people are just victims of circumstance, but that cannot be every single one of them, and it cannot be a reason to let everyone off scot-free. You have to investigate these things, and that's why what I said earlier about prison reform and mental health facility reform needs to be on the forefront of everyone's mind, but it's not. It's always either put them all in or take them all out. Giggity, and that's not what we should do.
Seeking fame or glory. But you can't toss the entire morality system superheroes have followed since their inception and expect that this genre that has been popular since 1938 will just keep making money now without such a core aspect of it. That's just friggin' stupid. And of course, the last argument I keep saying.
Exactly, and that's
Shut
what we're
the
going to
fuck up,
do.
idiot. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Fuck you and your video. To which I'll very kindly reply, I actually do know what I'm talking about. I know more about superheroes than you know about your own pathetic, wasted little life. Go back to jerking off to raccoon girls. The adults are frickin' talking. Anyways, this is my long-winded
Well
way
stated,
of further
sir.
explaining that I was glad in Dispatch when Mecha Man with a broken arm stepped in and stopped those skittle-masked guys from looting TVs, as it's what a superhero would do. And I was very surprised to see it because superheroes are friggin' awesome and they've been missing for a long time in pop culture. Anywho, that's all for today.
And that's the thing that kills me the most about this. The people who claim to be more nuanced in that they try to figure out why people go down certain paths find themselves very short-sighted at the end. They've opened their minds so far that they've collapsed back in on themselves like a neutron fucking star. It's brilliantly idiotic. Like, you have to be able to look at the nuance of things, and everyone's different and everyone's situation is different. But at the same time, they find themselves, and that's why the anti-racist people, especially the, as before mentioned, overprivileged, upper and upper middle class, liberal white women, generally tend to be the most racist fucking people in the world, is because they throw all of black people, all of any other race, religion, sexuality, identity into they put them all into a little ball, and they think that they're all the same. They claim that they don't, but listen to them talk. Like, listening to like their voter identification laws is the great example. They claim that black people can't find where the fucking DMV is. You know how fucking horrible that is? It's an idiotic argument. The fuck is that? No, it's not Donald Duck. That's Howard the Duck from the 80s George Lucas movie, which is actually a Marvel comic. But it's absolutely ridiculous. So just kids, like I said just a second ago, do not allow your mind to expand and your mind to be so open that it collapses in on itself over the weight of your own fucking stupidity. That being said, I've got a jet. Thank you all so much for showing up. I appreciate you. And we will see you